Yum, yum!
Hey Pixel Fondooers, this is Ryan Ernst with the Pixel Fondue crew, and today we're going to be going over some of my top tips and tricks when it comes to customizing your Modo UI. And in this video, we're going to talk about customizing your forms, saving out custom pie menus, saving out your config files so that they load when you reset your preferences, um, and I'm going to show you how to move your kits bar around to make it a little more accessible. So stay with me. All right, let's jump right into it. So basically everything that happens in your Modo UI, like all these different buttons, your kits bar, all this stuff, polygons, edges, all these icons, tools, all that is controlled through your forms editor. So if you come up to system, you can go to form editor, and that's what this is. So it has a really handy tool up at the top called find form. You can click on this and then you can click on anything in your Modo UI that is a form, like this sphere icon is a form that launches the command to start the sphere tool. And that find form button will pull you down in the UI tree or in the form tree to whatever you click on. Okay, so let's click on find form and click on my Mighty Mouse kit icon up here at the top. That's going to pull me in this form tree to my popover form for the Mighty Mouse kit. So that's got my documents and the assign keys button in it. So the cool workflow and one of the main tips is that you can actually find the stuff that you want and then you can right click it and say duplicate. So duplicating it actually creates a second one in the form editor. You can see it pop up here. But then what we can do is we can say find form and we can find somewhere in the Modo UI that we want to move this to. So I'm going to click here and it's going to bring up the properties down here. So then I'm going to grab the popover, the duplicated popover form, and I'm going to move it down next to properties. And you can see it populates there. Now I want to put a little spacer in there, so I'm going to say create new divider, and I'm going to drag that divider between my popover form and properties. Right? So now you can see that we've got a little separator there. Now, one of the other cool tips is that you can actually do multiple forms at once. So I'm going to click on this, I'm going to go to Hatchet, it's going to open that up, then I'm going to click on it again, I'm going to go over to Coolidge, I'm going to click on Mops, and I'm going to click on the 60-second search. So it's opened up a bunch of different ones for me, and I'm going to come through and grab the different popovers that I just opened up. The first one is the 60 seconds, so I'm just going to quickly come through here. Grab any of the other ones. All right, I've got 4 selected. I'm going to duplicate these, and then I'm going to drag them down and put them next to my kit. And there you go, it populates there. So we could do all sorts of stuff. I mean, we can move it over. We can move these things to different parts of the UI if we wanted. All sorts of easy stuff. So maybe I'll take the Sketchfab, and just for one more example, I'll move it over to the other side. So found the Sketchfab first, and then I found where I wanted to put it. So I duplicate Sketchfab, and then I drag it down. Let's pull it over here. And there you go. It's going to put it right there. I'm going to take this divider here that's already on the tree, and I'm going to pop it in so that it's divided. All right, so now we want to save this out. So I'm going to come up to File. I'm actually not going to use the configure save because that will save it to my Modo preferences. And then if I reset those preferences, I'll lose it. So instead I'm going to say configure export. And I'm going to put this in my Luxology configs folder. So I'm going to call this, let's say, new underscore kits underscore bar. I try not to use spaces and stuff in my configs. Sometimes they can mess stuff up. It's rare, but it does happen. And then instead of fragment all, I'm going to say fragment forms. And then I'm going to click OK. And that's going to crash Modo. Interesting. Alright, so let's open Modo back up and see if that actually saved or if that crash cost us our form editing. Fingers crossed. Alright, it does look like it does look like it in fact saved our preferences and saved those changes. Not sure why it crashed. It normally doesn't do that, but I have been messing around with the preferences and stuff, and I didn't reset them last, so that's probably the cause. Anyway, let's open this config up and see what it looks like. So I'm going to go up to System and open Config folder. That's going to pop this open. I really like using Atom as my editor. It's free, so there's also Notepad++, but I've really started to like Atom, so I'm going to use that. So I'm going to say open with Atom. And it's going to show me, the first thing is the V60 modes tail. So it doesn't look like there's anything extraneous. Sometimes you'll get extra stuff in there, especially if you haven't reset your preferences before doing this, and then you might want to go in there and delete those out so they're just not cluttering it up. But it looks good. So let's jump back over to Modo. Now, my Mighty Mouse kit comes with a lot of different key bindings and stuff. It also comes with 3 custom pie menus. So I highly recommend, if you don't use some of the tools on the pie menus, there's tons of them, edit them. Please edit them. I'll show you how to do it. We're going to come in here, say Form Editor. So one of the other cool things in the Form Editor, the Find Form button, not only can you click on things in the UI, but you can also start the process and then do your key bindings. So for the first custom pie menu in my Mighty Mouse kit, the key binding for that is Control-Shift-7. So I click that and it automatically pulls up that form. So you don't have to hunt for it. If you know what you're looking for, you can just do it. Find form, Control-Shift-7, Control-Shift-8 is number 2. Use these to your advantage so that you're not slowing yourself down looking for your forms, right? So I've messed around with it a little bit. You can see I've put edge flow on there. Edge flow is great, but these custom forms are really meant to be malleable. You're supposed to come in here and use them to make your life easier, right? So for example, let me open up a scene that's a little more complex, something that I've spent a lot of time on. I'm going to go into my blade lagger scene. We'll open this up and we're going to use these custom forms. We're going to use them as malleable pieces in our workflow to just shave off some time in the things that we're doing a lot, right? So for example, we're using a lot of the same materials. We've got the red metal, we've got the gray metal, we've got the gold metal, and I use those those 3 pretty consistently. Sometimes I'm also using selection sets and stuff like that. So the process for making material, so if I wanted to like select this, make this a gray material, I hit M and then I come down and I either search here with my eyes or I type it in gray metal. There you go. Now that's all fine and dandy, but what I can do is I can open up my command history down here in the corner. You do that just by grabbing this little bar above the command line, stretching it up, and I can come in here, find the actual tag, the actual command for that tag. I can copy it, and then I can paste it in the command line for one of my actions here. And then I can rename that label whatever I want. So I'm going to say gray metal matte. Perfect. Maybe I'll do another one where I say main colored metal. Give it a name. And maybe I do one more where I say gold-plated metal. Copy that, put it up here. And now, if I'm using this this menu here, Control-Shift-7, you can see that it's actually got the materials here. So if I wanted to make this the main colored mat instead, oh, looks like I've done something wrong there. I'm going to copy this name directly, come back into my form editor, and update this. Oh, you know what it is? Actually, it's because I am not working on the base mesh for it. So now I can do main color, gold plated, gray metal, whatever it is. And I've got that saved out, or at least I've got that in my pie menu. And so it's just I can use it as much as I want, and then the next time that I have something better, or that when I'm done with this project I'm working on something else, I'll update that. Maybe I make it so that it's a selection set, right? So I can come in here, grab this. Maybe I want to make this glow. Maybe it doesn't always glow, but maybe I don't want it to be a separate material, but I want it to have a selection set that I can turn a group on and off or something. So I can do a selection set, and I can say, I'm going to call this a cut-in. Cut-in. You can see that selection set pops up down here. I can copy that, open my form editor back up, paste that in. I'm going to call this one SS for selection set, cut-in. So now, if I want to do that, I easily can. Right? I can just add, instead of having to search for that selection set or whatever it is, if it's one that's going to be very common, I'm going to use it on a lot of things. I'll just make it into a pie menu once, spend 30 seconds doing that, and then I can use it quickly throughout the rest of my project. Oh yeah, I guess I can show you how to. You can right-click this this custom menu and say Save Form, and then I would recommend saving it. If you're doing a lot with it, just save it back in your kits folder in Mighty Mouse configs, and it's the top one there. So I'm just gonna click on red custom 01, hit save, yes, okay. So now if I've done everything correctly, it won't matter if I reset my preferences. Everything's gonna come right back up, and I don't have to worry about messing up the customizations that I've made to Modo. It all just saves, and I can even put it like on Dropbox or something like that and call it at my work computer. Okay, so we've gone over your form editor, we've gone over the find form functions, duplicating forms, moving them around to adjust the Modo UI to the way you want it. We moved our kits folder around. Then we did some pie menu stuff, same tricks with the duplicate. We made some material stuff on the pie menus. Let's also go over some key binding stuff. So you've basically got two main types of key bindings in Modo. You've got your regular key bindings, and then you've got your tool-specific key bindings. So your regular key bindings are things like in the Mighty Mouse in the Mighty Mouse kit, you can hit Control Alt Shift S, and that will actually do a save incremental. So if you don't know what save incremental is, you can find it under File Save, or File Save Incremental. And what that does is it saves your file, but it does a copy of it, and then it does a new number on the top. So this was Red Zoidlager 035, and now it's 036, so it just increments on top. That's great if you want to have extra backups. I just work that way iteratively. So that's an example of a regular key binding, and that's easy enough. You can open up your command history, you can go to the last thing that you saved, or you can go to the last tool that you ran or command that you ran. You can find the actual command. So this is save as Dropbox, blah, blah, blah. We want the actual script, so that's the @inksave xp pi. You can right click that, say map to command key, and then you can change that to whatever you want. Control Alt S is what it is right now, and then you would hit OK. So you can do that, and then you go up to your file, config, export, and save out your key bindings as a fragment. So we did our forms as a fragment, key bindings is another fragment that you can save out. Now, the tool-specific hotkeys are a little more complex. So you can see tons of examples in my Mighty Mouse kit, and I will pull a couple of them up for you. Okay, so I'm going to give myself a little more room here. I'm in a new scene. By the way, the key command for that in the Mighty Mouse kit is Control-Alt-Shift spacebar. Makes it kind of easy to just clear out the space instead of having to go over there and shrink it up. So tool-specific hotkey that I've got in mind to show you is on a cube. So I'm going to do my cube with Shift 1, and then I'm going to drag it out, holding Control to give me that actual cube, not rectangle. And then if I do Shift and mouse tilt, so up and down on the keyboard, you can see I can actually change my radius here. So that's easy. That's a tool-specific hotkey that activates when the cube is on. Other hotkeys for that are Shift 3, Shift 6, and Shift 9 all increase the segments on their respective sides. So Shift 3 is on the Z, Shift 6 is Y, and Shift 9 is on the X. Then Shift 2 zeroes out the Z, 0, 5 zeroes out the Y, and Shift 8 zeroes out the X, right? Awesome. You can just sit there and play with it on your mouse and control it however you want without actually having to open up your tool properties and stuff. So those are great examples of tool-specific hotkeys. So another example of tool-specific hotkeys would be if I did a loop slice. So if you're using a mouse, the loop slice command is actually on 8. Up and down will control my segments. That's my mouse tilt. And then if I hold Shift, pay attention to the mode here. If I hold Shift and do mouse wheel tilt, you can see I actually change the mode. So I can do symmetry mode, so I can do harder edges on the side. I can do free mode, or I can do uniform. Snap that back, all without having to open my properties and manually change them over here. So these are really nice tool-specific hotkeys that activate only when the tools that you are using are activated, right? I can jump in to the config file and I can show you kind of the breakdown of those. So we've been just doing that loop slice, so we'll use loop slice as our example. So I'm actually going to find where I changed loop slice, so you can see the loop slice mode here. You can see that I changed the attribute. So we actually want the one that is tool set attribute poly.loopSlice mode uniform. So poly.loopSlice is the tool, that's the loop slice tool. Mode is what we're changing, and uniform is what we're changing it to. So you could actually copy this down here, and then let's open up the config file for this. If you go into the Mighty Mouse configs and you scroll down to the bottom, you can go into the key map. I'm going to right click that. I'm going to say open with Atom. And it's a very well commented out key bindings config. So you can find exactly what you're looking for. Everything's commented out. You've got the individual tools up here at the top. You've got renaming stuff so that you can see how the renaming is all set up. This config file is really big actually. So then you can come down here. There are tool specific hotkeys, and you can see exactly how they're set up. So let's go down to loop slice. Which, here we go. It's at the bottom of the tool specific key bindings. We've got loop slice, we've got it set up for the mouse wheel tilt. So if we're looking here, what I've actually done is I've taken a regular key binding code, which is just what you can find just by right clicking it, say mapping to command key, and you can grab it right there. So I've taken that, I've plugged it into regular config stuff, which you could get by exporting your config and then just opening up and looking at it if you wanted something specific, or you can copy and paste it from my config and just add to this. So then I've pasted out the tool attribute here in the key, the preset poly.loopSlice. That's where it's setting up the tool specific part of it, right? This is setting up what it's changing, so the settings for loop slice. And then you can see count. So that's controlling the number of loop slices that's going around on the count. And the question mark is gather what it's already set to. So if it's a count of 1, it says it's already set to 1, and then the plus is add 1. So then it gets set to 2. And then you can see below that it's, okay, what is it set to? Subtract 1. It works the same way with the mode underneath that, where it's calling up the mode and it's saying, what is that already set to? So say it's set to uniform. Well, the next one in that list of 3 that it can be uniform, free, or symmetry is symmetry. So make it symmetry. And if it's symmetry, make it free. If it's free, make it uniform. So it just goes in a circle. And then you can see down below it, you've got 1, 2, and 3 set up as free, uniform, and symmetry if you want it to be specific. So they're all set up. You can come in here, you can look at these configs, and I hope you do. I hope that they're useful. I personally think that it's well worth $10 just to come in here and be able to set this up the way that you want, and to pick through it and figure out how you can take it and set up the tool-specific hotkeys for the tools that you like the most. So please check out my link in the description below to my Gumroad. The Mighty Mouse kit is $10, and tons and tons of stuff that we have only scratched the surface of. So please comment down below. Let me know what you like about it. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know what you don't like about it. I can't wait to hear from you. Have a good night.
Yum, yum!